I married a girl I barely knew because of a stupid bet with my friends. I thought I was in control. I thought she was just a rebellious girl I could charm and then forget. But on our wedding night, she told me something that made the world stop. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the villain. My name is Alexander Sterling. Most people just call me Alex. I'm 31, a billionaire thanks to some smart and lucky investments, and if I'm being honest, I've never had to try too hard in life. Everything always seemed to work out for me. I lived in a glass penthouse that overlooked half the city, drove cars that people took pictures of, and dated women who seemed more interested in my bank account than in me. It was all easy, boring even. That night, we were at a party in the hills. My friends Brent, Liam, and Carter were drunk, loud, and reckless, just like always. We were on the balcony, overlooking the lights of Los Angeles. Carter raised his glass and said, "You can have any girl, right?" I shrugged. "Probably." Brent leaned in. "What if we pick the girl? One you couldn't charm. One who doesn't care about your money." I laughed. "Sure. Pick anyone." Liam smiled. "Her name's Bella Thompson. Rebellious. Doesn't give a damn about people like us." I didn't know it then, but that was the night everything changed. Her name came up again 2 days later when I looked her up. Isabella Bella Thompson. She ran a tiny art studio on the east side. She painted in bold colors, made loud statements about class, greed, and power. Everything I was. She had short black hair with one side shaved, wore old band shirts, and never smiled in pictures. They said she hated men like me. Perfect. I went to her gallery the next evening. I wore jeans and a plain shirt, no watch, no driver. Just a guy walking into a room full of color and energy. She stood near the back, paint on her hands, sleeves rolled up. She looked at me once, and then looked away. I walked up to a painting of a burning dollar sign and said, "That's intense." She looked up. "That's the point." Her voice was calm, not rude, just tired of people saying dumb things. "I'm Alex," I said. I didn't ask. I smiled. "You don't like talking to strangers?" "I don't like talking to rich strangers pretending to be poor." I didn't know whether to laugh or leave. I stayed. For the next 2 weeks, I went back again and again. Sometimes she ignored me. Sometimes she asked questions. I told her I worked in finance, but I didn't go into detail. She said she hated banks. I said I wasn't a fan either. That part wasn't a lie. Slowly, she stopped pushing me away. She'd let me walk with her to the cafe nearby. She'd tell me stories about the kids she taught art to. I'd tell her about the places I traveled, careful to leave out the private jets. She asked questions I wasn't used to. "Why do you care about money so much?" I didn't have an answer. One night, we were sitting on the steps outside her studio. She was drinking coffee. I asked her, "Would you ever get married?" She blinked. "Why?" "Just wondering." She stared at the street. "Only if it felt right. Only if I trusted the person completely." I nodded. Then I asked her to marry me. The next week was a blur. I told her I didn't want a long engagement. I said I believed in doing things that felt real. She looked unsure. I told her I'd wait if she wanted. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said yes. The wedding was small. She wore a simple white dress with black boots. I wore a gray suit with no tie. We stood in front of 20 people, half of whom she knew from her studio, the other half confused friends of mine. She looked at me as we said our vows, like she was searching for something in my face. I tried to hold her gaze. I felt like I didn't deserve it. I told myself I would come clean. But not yet. On our wedding night, we were in a quiet cabin I'd rented by a lake. She sat on the bed and said, "Before anything happens, I need you to know something." I sat down beside her. "I've never done this before. Any of it. You're the first." I stared at her. She continued, "I've dated. I've kissed. But I never wanted to give that part of me to someone who didn't see me." My chest felt heavy. I thought about the bet. About the lie. About what I'd taken without even touching her. I wanted to tell her right then. But I didn't. The next morning, she made coffee and smiled at me like nothing was wrong. We walked by the lake. She collected stones. I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd done. When we got back to the city, she moved into my apartment. My friends were shocked. Carter said, "You really went through with it." I told him to shut up. Brent laughed. "Guess you win the bet." She heard them. She was walking in from the hallway. She froze. Her hands dropped the bag she was holding. "What bet?" The room went quiet. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "What bet, Alex?" I said. It was stupid. It started as a joke. I didn't mean for it to go this far. She stared at me like I was someone she'd never met before. "You married me because of a joke? I didn't mean to hurt you." She walked out. She didn't answer my calls. Didn't come back to the apartment. Her studio was closed. Her social media was gone. I felt like I had broken something sacred. I stayed home for days. The city felt empty without her. I thought I'd been in control of the game. But I wasn't playing anymore. I was just lost. I left the company. I didn't need more money. I started spending time in shelters, listening to people's stories. I stopped talking to my old friends. I visited her studio every day for weeks. She didn't come. One day, I saw her face on a flyer. She was speaking at a community center about art and healing. I went, stood in the back. She looked different, stronger. She spoke about trust and pain and using it to create. After the event, I left a small envelope at the front desk. Inside was a letter. I told her everything. I didn't make excuses. I told her I loved her, even if I didn't deserve her. I waited. Days passed. Then weeks. One morning, a card slid under my door. "Come to the gallery. Tonight. 7 p.m. When I arrived, the lights were low. A new collection covered the walls. Each painting was about broken things being put back together. She stood in the middle of the room. I walked toward her. She said, "You lied." I nodded. "You broke something." I nodded again. "But you stayed. You changed." I saw it. I didn't say anything. She looked at me. "Do you still want to be married?" I said, "Only if it means starting over. For real this time." She held out her hand. We didn't kiss. We just stood there, hands touching. We moved back into the apartment. Slowly, carefully. She took the guest room. I didn't ask questions. I just waited. We started working together on art programs for kids. We opened a space downtown. I funded it, but her name was on the door. She laughed more. She painted every day. I cooked. I cleaned. I wrote her letters. One night, she handed me a box. Inside was a new wedding ring. "I want this one to be real," she said. We stood in front of our families. Just them. No media. No games. She looked me in the eye. I said, "No lies. No bets." She said, "Only truth." I put the ring on her finger. We didn't live happily ever after. We fought sometimes. We cried. But we built something real. And every time I looked at her, I remembered that love isn't something you win. It's something you earn. Every single day.